Hello everybody, I'm Nick, and in this video I'm going to introduce you to an excellent NuGet package that makes the process of creating scheduled tasks or repeatable tasks in .NET so simple. Using this package actually feels so natural, and the Fluent API it has, it's, in my opinion, amazing. It is how every NuGet package that tries to make the developer experience easy for us should be. Now, this package can do things like scheduling, queuing, caching, emailing as well. You can do everything with that package, but in this video I'm going to focus on the scheduling because, well, that's its main thing. However, if you want me to create a video on those other things as well, then as I go in the video, if you're interested, leave a comment down below and let me know, and I'll do that. If you like that content and you want to see more, make sure you subscribe for more training. Check out my courses on dometrain.com. Okay, so let's see what we have here. I have a console application. I'm going to start with this one. And what I want to let you know is that you can actually do some form of scheduling, task scheduling especially, in .NET by using things like background services, hosted services. There's a way to do that, and there's even a new way to do schedule repeatable tasks that was introduced in .NET 6 or 7, if I'm not wrong. Now that's fine, but you have to do quite a lot of work to get that raw material, that raw code, into something that you can really use in your application in a very nice, scalable way, have the way they sync work correctly, the service injection, and so on. However, in this video, I'm going to use a NuGet package that makes all that so easy and much more. The first thing I want to do is I want to go and I want to search for Microsoft.extensions.hosting. And I want to add this NuGet package because I want to turn this console application into a hosted service. So I'm going to say builder, the same way you would create sort of a minimal API setup, but in this case I'm not going to say web application. I'm going to say host.create application builder. Then I'm going to have my app, which is builder.build, exactly as you'd expect, and then I'm going to run my service. That is it. And now I'm going to introduce my NuGet package, and that NuGet package is called Coravel. Now, this is an open source NuGet package. I'm going to put a link in the description down below. If you like what you see, please go and give it a star. It really helps those creators keep doing what they do. I should point out there's a pro service as well with some more features. That's up to you if you want to use it. I'm not going to touch on that in this video. The base package is free to use. So let's go ahead and add Coravel, and I'll show you how easy it is to add it into your application. So first you're going to go to your services, and you're going to say add scheduler. We're going to focus on the scheduler, and then in the app I'm going to say app.services, that is the service provider, and I'm going to say use scheduler. I'm going to access scheduler here, and then this is my basic application scheduling. This is not going to be scheduled when I take some action, but rather on application startup something will be scheduled. So I'm going to say over here scheduler.schedule. I can schedule both synchronously and asynchronously. Let's start with the synchronous way. I'm going to say console.writeLine. This was scheduled, for example, over here. And then I'm going to give it a duration time. Now I can use cron, or I can use daily, hourly, daily at. I can use zones. I can use so many different approaches. In this case, I'm going to say every 5 seconds, or I can say as well every seconds, and I can provide 2, 3, 4, 5 as the option. So I'm going to go here, choose this application, and I'm going to say run. And what I'm going to see in the console is every 2 seconds, I'm going to see this was scheduled. Very easy, very simple. And now you're going to go ahead and schedule your applications. And again, if this was asynchronous, you would have your await async here. You might have an await task, whatever, or you might have just a fake task.delay over here. Let's go ahead and say delayed for 20 milliseconds, for example. Here we go. And then simply say every 2 seconds. So if I do something like this, I have true await async in here, and it's not an action anymore. It is in fact a task or a function that returns a task, and I still have the same functionality. Very easy, very simple. Now here's where this becomes even better, because you don't really want to have your task like this in your application. You want to actually encapsulate them into some form of class. Now the way this works in Coravel is by using something called an invocable. So what I'm going to do is create a new class over here. I'm going to say my repeatable task, and that repeatable task will be of type invocable. And now I have an invoke async task that I can use to put all my logic in here. The great thing about this is I can register it as transient or scoped, and dependency injection will be respected. So for example, if I want to inject some service here, let's say an logger, for example, very easily I can do that. I can say my repeatable task, I can grab the logger, I can inject it from the constructor, and I can say logger.log information, hello from invocable. And that is it. Now to get that triggered, let me just comment this one out. If you want the source code, by the way, you can use the link in the description to get it for free. And I'm going to say scheduler.schedule, and I'm going to say my repeatable task. And then I'm going to give it the time, which in this case is let's say every 5 seconds. And that is it. And of course, I also have to register this in DI. So I'm going to say services.add transient. In this case, I want a new instance every single time. And then I'm going to say run. And as you're going to see, every 5 seconds, I'm going to get that log. So hello from invocable, 1, now counting to 5, and then you're going to see it, another one, and it's going to keep running every 5 seconds throughout the application's lifetime. Now, an awesome feature of Coravel, which I really appreciate, is what happens if you want to pass down a parameter as well over here. Let's say that I have a connection string I need to pass down. Well, it's actually pretty neat the way they did this. You can say private read-only connection string and pass it down like a string. And I'm going to set it over here, and then just say hello from invocable with string, and I'm going to provide the connection string parameter over here. There we go. So as you can see over here, I'm passing it down, and then I can go to program.cs and I can remove this add transient and instead say, let me just again comment that out in case you want to grab the code, schedule with parameters or params, my repeatable task. And you're injecting now in here whatever you want to pass down in those uninjectable parameters. So iLogger will still be injected from DI, but string isn't recognized. You can't possibly know what to inject. So you can, of course, do something like builder.config or configuration and get the connection string from the settings. But for the sake of argument here, I'm just going to say localhost and then some number, pretend that this is some form of connection string. And if I do that, and of course I have to specify how often this should run. So let's go ahead and say every 5 seconds. So if I do that, then as you're going to see, I'm going to get that triggered both with a new instance, but also with a connection string being passed by this parameters method. I find that very neat. There's other ways to do it, of course, with dependency injection. You can do it on the service, but I really like that there's also this option. Now, what I would like to do is I want to take this task and put in this API. Of course, I'm going to go and add Coravel here as well. And I'm going to change the namespace and also remove this connection string. I don't need this for the example I'm going to show you. But now what I can do is I can also sort of schedule a task as part of my application's logic. So I'm going to go to program.cs. I'm going to say builder.services.add scheduler, and I'm going to go to this example endpoint over here and inject the iScheduler. And by doing that, I can just, as part of my application, say, okay, what do I want this thing to do? Oh, I want to schedule a task, maybe to run some migration, maybe to send an email, maybe whatever it is. And I can do it by saying scheduler.schedule, the whatever task I have, my repeatable task, and then I can pass anything I want as a parameter. In this case, every 2 seconds, I wanted to start doing things. And the moment I do that, of course, I have to register that service as well over here. So I'm going to say builder.services.add transient. And if you want it transient, you can. If you want it scoped, you also can. And I'm going to say my repeatable task. I'm going to choose the API, and then I'm going to go to Insomnia and call that endpoint. And as you can see now, the moment I call it, every 2 seconds, the new task is starting. Because you can have multiple tasks running at the same time, the scheduler can be very smart, and you can actually do something called a prevent overlap with another invocable. So if there's another invocable with some name, you can say, do not run this task if the previous task I'm mentioning hasn't completed yet. And that will prevent a very big issue that exists in scheduling in general, which is scheduled task overlapping. Some other amazing options are things like you want something to run hourly, so it will calculate an offset and run it every hour. You have things like when, if you want to pass down a predicate, to have some conditions on whether this task should run or not. You can say run it only once as well, or you can also select something like the zone. So this is a zone task, and you can pass down a zone time info. It's very, very highly configurable. But there is one thing that's not supported, and that is saving those scheduled tasks in the database. This is more for ephemeral tasks on services, and they don't share a database. It is more for the same thing that you would use the background service feature of ASP.NET Core, but now you have this package that provides a significantly better experience. To me, this is not a deal breaker, and with things like queuing as well, I have a queue injecting, and I can queue maybe a long running task here as well. I can have things like mailing. So if I go over here, I can add Coravel.mailer as well. And by doing that over here, this is using MailKit behind the scenes. And I can inject the iMailer to start firing emails, which is another very popular thing when it comes to scheduling. You can queue an email and it's going to be sent after a user signs up, for example, and so on. If you need that sort of scheduling that is not persistent, then in my opinion, Coravel is an amazing NuGet package, and I highly recommend you click the link in the description down below and you go and you give it a star. It is great, it is excellent, and you can use the link in the description as well to grab the source code and play around with it to see if it is for you. But now I want to know from you, what are you using for scheduling? Are you using that? Maybe Hangfire because you need the persistence? How about Quartz? Leave a comment down below and let me know. Well, that's all I had for you for this video. Thank you very much for watching, and as always, keep coding.